I loved, even just some of the conversation around doing it on a budget and stuff. So I love that from almost like an accessibility perspective. It allows more people to travel.
Yeah.
It's just more practical, really.
I mean, you see all these big travel bloggers out there and they go to these lovely 5-star resorts which cost £1,000 a night and flying business class everywhere, and I just think that's just not realistic for people. I mean, the mass majority of us were just live normal life, but if you can be able to go away instead of one big luxury holiday a year, you can go away 5 times on a budget. I think a lot of people find that a little bit more valuable in life.
Hello everyone, I'm Michael Corrigan and this is the Journey Continues podcast, where we speak to interesting individuals about how they've navigated the challenges in their lives. Our mission is not to provide advice, but it is 100% to provide insight into what our guests were thinking and feeling through these times, so you can cherry pick the information that resonates with you the most. Today's guests, plural, are Hannah and Charlie, our first guests on the podcast, also known as That Travel Couple. These guys have built a life around travel, a huge following on social media, specifically on TikTok. And today we're going to hear their story about how they started and how they've adapted over the last year and what their plans are going forward. So Hannah, Charlie, welcome. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Hi.
Awesome. You guys are the first guests we've had from a travel background and being involved in travel as well. I think this is going to be an interesting conversation for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays with COVID and everything what's going on. And yeah, just hopefully looking forward to being able to soon get away and start traveling again.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. I definitely think there's light at the end of the tunnel. So let's kick things off then. So one of the things that I always find quite interesting, a lot of people ask about, is you guys have kind of built a lot of opportunities and built this kind of life on social media and built that around travel. How did all that start? How did it all come about?
That is our number one question, which we are definitely not 100% sure on, because it's almost like our lives just flipped a switch one day and we'd gone from kind of two just regular people who did their normal 9-to-5 jobs, and now we're basing everything around travel. And I mean, this time last year we started reaching out more on social media after doing some traveling. We've always done traveling together, but
it's the first time we decided to publicize it and get out, just to give people our experiences.
We had a lot of people ask us about how we go traveling so much and also how we go so cheap as well. So we're very, very good at finding little cheap deals, little cheap flights here and there and everything like that. So more and more people started asking. We started getting more and more followers on mainly Instagram. But then we thought, when COVID hit, we got put into lockdown. At the start, we were like, oh, we're never going to do TikTok. Oh, that's such a child's app to do. We're never going to do that. And now we are fully invested. We spend all our time on TikTok and it is just amazing. And we started putting out some videos on just how to find cheap flights if people don't know how to find specific flights as well, how to find cheap accommodation. And it kind of just grew from there. The more people asked for our advice, we were giving more advice out, and it kind of just went into this massive spiral, and now we're up to 170,000 followers, and we're able to travel, produce content for people, and it's just become basically our second jobs at the moment. But I think we are hoping maybe full time.
That'd be nice. Nice. Who wouldn't want to be able to travel full time for a job? I mean, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, I think there'll be a big opportunity for that in the future, probably in quite the near future as well, because everyone's going to be really curious about what people are doing, when things start to really open up again. Because I know I'm what's this like? What's the posts, or what's the new normal experience of travel like again?
It's just going to be interesting just to see what happens.
Yeah, and when I look at your social media, it's you're very authentic, fun, just having a good laugh as well. And I loved, even just some of the conversation around doing it on a budget and stuff. I mean, is that something you I guess, and I can imagine a lot of people find that very valuable. Is that something that you guys, is that kind of a passion, I guess? I love that, because I love that from a, like, almost like an accessibility perspective. It allows more people to travel.
Yeah.
It's just more practical, really.
I mean,
Yeah.
you see all these big travel bloggers out there, and they go to these lovely 5-star resorts which cost £1,000 a night and flying business class everywhere, and I just think that's just not realistic for people. I mean, the mass majority of us were just live normal life, but if you can be able to go away, instead of one big luxury holiday a year, you can go away 5 times on a budget. I think a lot of people find that a little bit more valuable in life, and I just don't think people know how to budget travel. And I think it's really important to us that we do everything as cheaply as possible, because I mean, nobody's made out of money, and we certainly don't earn a lot of money through our jobs as well. So we do everything on a budget. I have spreadsheets for everything.
Yeah, very, very.
I'm very, very organised. We track flights. I've got whiteboards in our room which have just stuff we need to tick off and book and everything. But I think just the cheap side of it is really important to a way more big target audience than just the luxury side of traveling, because it's just, you just reach out to more people, basically.
And I feel like it helps students as well. So a lot of people always say, I know when I was in school, I was always talking to my friends saying, we're going to go to college, do a year traveling, go to university. That's kind of the niche. I definitely found when I got to about 18, 19, just finishing college, like, I didn't really know what we were doing. I mean, Hannah went on a couple of holidays. I haven't been on a plane then for about 10 years or so. And then we started getting really invested into it, and it's just kind of just taken off from there. I mean, now if I could go back with the knowledge I have now, back to when I was 18, I'd barely be in the country. I'd be everywhere. I love it.
I don't think we'd be doing university degrees.
No, probably not.
If we started this earlier.
So that's interesting. So where's the obvious question is, where's the best place you've traveled? Where's your favourite place you've travelled so far?
That's so hard, because I mean, we're proper adventure people, I think, and I've been snow skiing since I could walk properly. My dad put me on a pair of skis before I was potty trained, and so personally I would say somewhere wintry.
Yeah, you love your skiing.
I love skiing, and I just think going skiing in Italy and all of the Cellaronda area is just absolutely amazing. Unless you've done the type of skiing there, it's breathtaking. You can go to all these little hidden valleys, and they've got frozen waterfalls, and just, you have to catch taxis and buses there, because normal, like, people can't get there by foot, so it's so remote and amazing. But if you've asked us together,
I love New York. When we went there last January, I absolutely loved it. Just the atmosphere, just the people you're speaking to. It was just a different experience to what I find in Britain. But to get might be Maldives.
Summer, I'd say Maldives, if I'm honest.
It might have to be Maldives. It was so high. It was just incredible. It really was.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it all, isn't it? There's so many places to travel to.
Yeah. It's so difficult to pick out one that we can say, this is the best one we've been to. I mean, we've covered a fair few countries, but there's still a lot more.
Yeah. Not even halfway through our bucket list yet.
Yeah. So, Hannah, I can totally resonate with the skiing in the north of Italy, because I did Erasmus when I was at university, so it was like the exchange program, and I moved to Bologna in Italy, and then they did like a trip to the Dolomites in Italy, and it was just like, it was stunning. It's like nothing I'd ever seen before, and the whole experience of being there. And what I love about that part of Europe is you have Italy, then you have Switzerland, you have France, and you have Austria, and it's like they didn't speak English there at all. It was between, the main languages were Italian and German, and it was you've got like a slightly Italianized version of after ski as well, with like the schnapps and stuff like that. So it's quite these kind of like little mishmash of the culture, which is awesome.
Brilliant.
And then I think like New York's awesome just from a buzz perspective. It's like you get there and there's just like so many things happening. So I usually travel there in business if I'm going, and it's it's very, I mean, there's just so many things happening, so much energy, it's a melting pot of culture again. So it's like, so many people that have moved there from around the world, lots of things happening, lots of creativity and stuff. So it's cool.
Yeah. Second, that is brilliant. I loved it.
What was it about it that, for you, what was it about it that stood out? You said it was kind of different from Britain and stuff. Was it just, because I think there's like when you're, I guess, foreign to the country and you travel abroad, you arrive and you're a little bit of a novelty sometimes. So I arrived and obviously people hear the accent and they go, oh, he's not American, where's he from? And then that starts a conversation and stuff. Yeah. What is it? Yeah.
I had all of those conversations. Literally, if we're just chatting to each other, someone would just come over and go, oh, you're not from here, where are you from? It just felt so relaxed.
And friendly.
Yeah.
Anything that you need or want, or when we went to New York, I had surgery on my leg about 4 weeks before. And that probably wasn't the best idea that I decided, right, I'm going to have major surgery on my leg, then try and hip hop it around New York on crutches. But we stepped off the plane, we went straight to a basketball game, which was just, I've never experienced anything like that before. Just completely different. But everybody was so helpful. There was people offering to take me around pretty much the whole 5 days we were there. There were people offering to take me around in a wheelchair the whole time, just so I didn't have to walk. And
it was,
also the cheap food as well. That was
the food was great. When we got tickets to go to the Rockefeller Center, and I mean this is fantastic. I love telling the story. And we signed up to potentially appear on the Jimmy Fallon show.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
we were just outside, and this really strange man just came up to us, and it was a bit creepy at the time. And he was like, "Do you want to go see a live show?" And I was like, okay. Followed us through this massive building, and he was like, "Oh yeah, right. Here's your tickets, and you come at a certain time." It was a couple hours later.
Yeah, it was about 3.
If there's room in the audience, we will select randomly out of like 100 people, and we'll put you in the audience of this show. And at the time, we didn't really know specifically what show it was.
Yeah, we didn't think anything of it. So it's in the at the back of the shop at the Rockefeller Center. So we went there. I think it was about 3 o'clock, couple of hours. We went to the top of Rockefeller Center. Incredible view. I can't recommend that enough. Just waiting there. Then they started calling out some numbers, letting people in. And then next thing I know, my number got called out. And I went, right, okay. No one else. I was the last person to get called out. So I just looked at Hannah and her family who we went with. I went, I'll see you later.
Just ditched me completely.
Just straight up ditched them. I didn't care. I was walking through. Turned out it's the Jimmy Fallon show. Gone through security, did everything, and I was by myself. Hannah wasn't too happy because she might miss out, and I was ditching her for a few hours. So I kept on nudging one of the security guards, saying, is there potentially going to be another seat? Is my girlfriend going to be allowed in? Doing all that. And he goes, which one is she? I go, you'll recognise her. She's small, blonde, and she's got a massive boot on her foot. You go, okay, I'll see what I can do. Go up into the waiting room. Where to there? I don't have any service or anything. Got to switch off our phones. But I got quite friendly with another American couple who let me borrow their phone so I could text Hannah saying, listen, this is what's going on. Had to switch off our phones, went through. Just before we got in, I saw the same security guard. I went, this looks like there's 3 spare seats. She's still downstairs. And he's gone, I don't know. I'll see what I can do. So sat down in our seats. Looked like I might have to wait there 3 hours by myself watching the show. I don't care. It's going to be funny. Next thing I know, 10 minutes later, Hannah walks in, comes sits next to me, and comes up to and then says to me, did you really leave your girlfriend downstairs in the lobby while you came up to the show? And I went, yeah. He goes, you're a legend. Gave me a high five.
And this was like the producer of the show as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
And all the producers felt so bad for me because not only did he ditch me, I couldn't walk back by myself really because of my leg. He also had you had the room key card to get into the hotel room, so I couldn't even just go back. And I mean, luckily we were on the Jimmy Fallon show, and well, my parents were fuming as well. We managed to get through and they didn't, and we still haven't managed to find the episode that we were on because it is American. We can't access it from the UK, but we're still trying every couple months.
Let's have a little look, see if we can see ourselves.
That was crazy, and apparently that just happens quite often.
Yeah. Actually, and we did, as we were walking out after the show finished, as we were walking out, the producer felt bad for Hannah, so obviously I ditched her, and gave you, was it the...
He gave me all the producer notes from the evening, and all the producers signed it on the bottom, so I've got all of the producer notes of all the celebrities and everything they gave me as like a souvenir, just
awesome.
because they felt bad because he just ditched me for a couple of hours.
Oh,
that's incredible. I would love to go to the Jimmy Fallon show. That's like a dream. That's a proper bucket list thing for me.
Just hang around the Rockefeller Centre.
That's class. How obviously travel changed quite a lot last year with it not really happening as much. How have you guys kind of adapted to that?
It's been a bit hard because I mean, this is the longest time we've been in the UK since the last time we've been on a plane is November, which doesn't sound very long, but to us that's a really long time.
We always like to go away at least once a month.
Yeah, we try once a month, whether that's 2 days or 2 weeks. But during April, May last year, we didn't feel it was quite the right time to travel. I know that people were traveling, but we thought, you know what, we'll hold off. We waited until the end of June. All the borders started to open and we thought, right, I think this is quite a good time to go. We started doing some planning, but the most difficult thing was actually the constant Googling of what countries let you in, what you need to have to get into that country. Do you need PCR tests? And where can you get them from if you do need them?
Because it all changed really quickly as well. Things opened up and closed.
I mean, we got friends who were away in like July, August time last year, and they were in Spain, and it can change within like 4 hours. So 4 hours, boom, it's on the quarantine list. As soon as you've either got 4 hours to come home or you've got to isolate for 2 weeks at home. So we were, I'd say a little bit, I was very anxious when we were away in different places that it was going to get put on, because I felt bad if I came back, I'd have to quarantine, but also I'd have to take 2 weeks off of work as well. Mm-hmm. But I think you didn't really care that much.
No, not really.
You are probably one of the most laid back people when I'm like organised with complete different.
I think that helps you though.
A little bit, but I mean, it was very, very hard to adapt around COVID. And when we are at home, we aren't able to travel. We try to kind of put out content that we've already taken. We are starting to run low on content at the moment.
Yeah, it's starting to get difficult. We can't have to just make a couple of stuff up in terms of what we can actually do. But obviously, we still use the same videos and everything that we've got, which is try to spread it out. Yeah,
just putting out content when you're not being able to travel was a bit difficult. But I think we've adapted well.
Yeah.
At the moment, considering, and we've been able to not go around quarantine because we obviously stick to all the rules, but we've been able to almost predict what countries are about to get put on quarantine lists and avoid them at all costs, basically. Not just for not being able to quarantine, but obviously the rates are high, and I don't think it's very fair that we then go to that country
and potentially risk our families or anyone else who's in the UK is actually isolating. So
yeah, definitely. And Charlie, how one of the things we spoke about previously was you've got a health challenge, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, so when I was 15, I had a cardiac arrest. I had a 2% chance of surviving. It just happened one day coming after school. I think it was after football training. I used to play so much sport, played football, rugby, cricket, golf. There wasn't really a time I was ever in my house, and I just played sport. And And I was always a little bit hesitant when Hannah first said, "Oh," we started going away a couple of times, just like driving there, getting on the ferry or anything. I said, "Oh, let's try and tackle a plane." And I think the first one for me, I mean, my dad doesn't like flying, so we didn't really fly much when we went on holiday as a family. Hannah just said, "Right, let's do flying. Let's try it. Let's go to Tenerife. Let's just see how you get on." I was really hesitant. I've got a defibrillator in my chest. Wow. And I know I can't go through metal detectors or anything like that. Going through the airports, Bristol was really good. So that's our local one. Bristol was really good. They knew I just had to show my little health card. And they said, "Right, just come stay far away from there, bring you to a separate machine." Got through their flight, completely fine, took off plane. I was really kind of hesitant. I didn't know what was going to happen. It was completely fine. I don't know what I was nervous about. The only thing was a little bit nerve-wracking for the first time was on the way back going through security. Tenerife didn't have the same machine where it's just they just have normal metal detectors. Obviously, I can't go through it. My doctor said this great line to me, which I'll never forget, is you can't go through a metal detector. If you go through it, either two things will happen. Either you break it or it breaks you.
Oh my God.
I've gone, okay, I'll avoid at all costs.
But then that wasn't uncommon though, because people with like pacemakers and stuff have to be careful. My mum's got a partial pacemaker. She has to be careful through airports. So it wasn't kind of like a completely different thing that we were having to do. But it was more the fact that because you only had a 2% chance of survival and there was like nobody in history on any sort of medical records which has the condition, the blood condition that you have, which caused the cardiac arrest, other than his mum. That there wasn't any records of what could happen if he goes on a plane for more than 4 hours, or is it more than 2 hours, or is he completely fine? There was no data to suggest that it could be completely fine or it could be completely awful. And I think we just thought, let's just take the risk.
Let's just go for it. And sure, I'm so happy I did, because I mean, I definitely wouldn't have been able to see the places I have seen without being able to fly. But now when an airport doesn't have a metal detector, they have to search me now, because I've done it so frequently. As I'm walking through, everything's off, and I'm stood there, hands out, ready, every single time. And they're like,
full body pat down.
They just look at me going, he's done this before.
I was going to say he must be becoming quite famous at Bristol Airport and potentially a few others.
We don't actually fly that much from our local airport. Even we used to, but we do struggle from our local airport because they don't fly a lot to the places we want to. So we do have to go to London a fair bit. But
I mean, for example, when we went to the Maldives, we got the National Express bus. I think that must have been £20 each.
Yeah, it's really cheap to catch the bus to the airport. So we end up doing that. I feel bad on our parents constantly driving to and from the airport. It's like every other week in the summer normally.
Driving to Luton for a 6 o'clock in the morning flight isn't probably the best thing.
That's difficult.
Yeah,
I love the, so you almost nonchalantly slid in the 2%. Obviously that's pretty serious.
So it's just a rare blood condition where I don't get enough calcium or potassium into my blood, and it just sent my heart into a spasm and then just straight up flatlines. I think I don't really know, so there's not enough information about the actual condition I have, so it's so difficult to know exactly what it is. I mean, I speak to my doctor a good amount. I've gone constantly there. I mean, they don't really have any new news, because as far as they're aware, the only 2 people who have survived what I've had is me and my mum.
That's crazy.
It's completely crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. And what was the recovery period like and stuff for all?
Really hard. So I was obviously, I said 15 at the time. Just luckily, it wasn't my GCSE year, so I still had a year till then. I couldn't play any sports. I was constantly walking up and down stairs. So I hate sitting around doing nothing. But it took me so long just to even go back out on the golf course. Just walking around was really difficult. I did manage to play my first round. I think it must have been September. So that happened in April. So it was a good 4 or 5 months before I could even walk properly. And it was so difficult. But I'm so glad I actually worked hard to get myself to where I am today. Because now I've turned professional at golf. So I've decided, I'm just going to do what I want to do. Go on my holidays, trips even.
We don't call them holidays.
Go on my trips, play my golf, and pretty much just see what I can actually do with my life.
That's really cool. What's your handicap?
I turned pro 4.
Wow.
What was difficult is I got a job at a golf club working as a custom fitter, and the only time really that was most beneficial was playing on weekends, and all the amateur events were on the weekends. So I barely managed to play much. But now I've turned pro, a lot of it's during the week, so I've got a lot more time to play, which is quite nice. I'm kind of falling back in love with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess it's one of the sports I used to play a lot as a kid, and it's one of the sports where you need to play it a lot to be good at it. It's almost like you can get 90% good, but then to get 10%, which makes your chipping and putting and all the kind of it's one of those things you really need to refine and stuff. But it's good just for playing with catching up with pals and playing it. I'll probably play like a few times a year. I played one of my really, really good friends is a member at Turnberry.
Wow, yeah,
which is awesome. And then I hadn't played in a good while, probably a year or so, and birdied the first, so was quite happy with that. He was a bit jealous because what's the Hannah, you'd obviously done a lot through COVID to help a lot of people. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So I used to work as a lifeguard and swim teacher. Obviously, when COVID hit, that shut down. I got put on furlough, but I just thought, you know what? I'm CPR trained. I'm like every single medical thing under the qualification that you can have, and I just thought, I feel like I shouldn't be on furlough. So I got a job as a healthcare worker, and it's got a bit like it's a cross between a care worker and a support worker. So I went round to people's houses that were vulnerable, made sure they had shopping, make sure they had food. I cooked them meals if they needed to, make sure they had all of their medication. Just make sure genuinely, through the summer, making sure they'd just be drinking water, because it's such a detrimental effect on people's health, just skipping a meal, especially when you're on medication for even stuff like blood thinners. You miss a meal and that's so detrimental on your health that I think through lockdown, so many vulnerable people and elderly people struggled a lot because they couldn't see their family, they couldn't see their friends. And I still do visit a lot of dementia patients, and just them skipping their medication once a day or not being able to see their kids just has such a decrease on their health. It was quite hard during April, May time to see the kind of effects that had happened through the first lockdown of that. But I'm not sure what point in my brain I thought it was a good idea to pick up a job as a healthcare worker through a pandemic. But looking back on it, I'm quite glad I did it. I got quite a lot of experience out of it as well, stuff that I never thought I'd have. I've always been I've been qualified as a lifeguard since the day I turned 16. My dad put me on a lifeguard course so I could get a job, basically. He was like, right, 16, you're in the working world and you got to go get a job, do that. But throughout everything, I want to say I've had obviously not a medical background, but I've helped people with medical emergencies throughout everything. I used to be in the British team for water skiing, and I remember being out one day in Weymouth Bay. I was out training, and we heard a Mayday call over the radio, and my dad's a Coast Guard as well, so he knew what the codes were over the radio, and he goes, that's somebody unconscious, not breathing, on a boat in the middle of the ocean. We're in a boat, so we thought, you know what, we'll just go check it out, make sure they're fine. Anyway, it was just nothing that I could ever have imagined. And looking back at it now, I thought, I had some balls doing that. I literally, I had all the cameras running on the boat as well, because I had a couple GoPros. Jumped off the boat, jumped on this diving boat, and this diver had basically got nitrogen poisoning underneath the water, and he'd had a heart attack underneath. They resurfaced him, but there were people, they didn't know how to do CPR. They had a defibrillator, didn't know how to use it. So I was just like this tiny little 16-year-old girl, like, move out of my way, I know what I'm doing. Cut his wetsuit off, was on the defibrillator, on the CPR. I think we were doing CPR for about 45 minutes maybe. Then the helicopter came down, picked him up, taken him off, and my dad was like,
good job.
I can't believe you've even done that. Yeah. But that's just not even, I've had a couple situations like that. I've had to hold somebody in the sea in like a spinal grip for 40 minutes in like freezing cold water before, because
not your sister.
No, that was somebody else. I'd have to do that with my sister as well, to be fair. But she'd had some sort of spinal injury after falling off a boat, and I knew how to do it. So I thought, well, I'm going to do it. And then the helicopter came, took her away, and she had like a concussed spinal cord. And they basically said if you hadn't have kept her still for that amount of time, and she would have moved from waves or stuff, she probably would have some sort of nerve damage in her legs or something like that. So I've always had some sort of like emergency background for me, unintentionally. I've never wanted to be in these situations, but they've always just kind of come to me, I guess. But at least if you ever have another episode, I know what to do.
That's incredible. That's two very like incredible stories there.
Yeah. Difficult to say, but it kind of just encourages us just to crack on, do what we want to do. I mean, it just pretty much shows anything can happen, and you just don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. So you might as well try and do what you want to do when you want to do it.
Yeah, definitely. So that kind of, I guess, leads us on to the last part of the conversation. Like, what's your plans for 2021?
Well, that is all government permitting, I guess, but because we obviously don't know when we're going to be able to leave. We're hoping the 18th of May, but it's whether those countries will accept us or not as tourists. But I mean, we'd love to see some more places. We have a couple trips booked to Tanzania, a couple trips booked to just some completely different places we never thought we'd be able to go to. We're hoping to maybe expand our business a little bit.
I think if we're able to go to Tanzania and do our safari trip, I think that would really, really help. And then the week after, we're going to California as well for one of Hannah's water ski races, doing the Catalina. So if we can get those in, that would be really, really good. Yeah,
and I think I think at this moment in time, we just need to play it safe with COVID rules and just do whatever we can do, really. I mean, we can go on staycations as of the 12th of April, so maybe we could do a little bit of like van life, because my parents have a camper van, so that's quite trendy at the moment. And I think we did two little trips in the camper van last year, but I'd quite like to do somewhere other than the southwest of England, because I do that quite a lot.
We do a lot,
but it's hard at the moment because of COVID. But we are hoping to expand, genuinely give out more information to people on how they can visit other places, not just normal tourist places, on a budget as well, because I don't think people think that they can go on a South African safari for cheap, but we are doing it on the barest budget in the world, and we want other people to be able to
just experience it. I mean, I think it's also going to help as well, especially after the lockdown we've just gone through, and everything that we went through in 2020. I think a lot of people are going to realise, actually, I don't want to just sit around, do kind of the same thing every weekend or every week. I want to go out, go to different countries, and actually just enjoy it. So I think that would really help as well, just to try and express from our views, saying this is how we do it. You don't have to do exactly like us, but we definitely recommend these certain countries, and we just give you a couple of tips just how to actually do it on your budget.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because this is like the first time that we've ever really been told in our generation, or even like our mum and dad's, or even our probably since our grandparents' generation, where it's like, you can't go anywhere, guys. You need to stay here, and you need to. And it's really quite strict because it's been really easy to just move around for such a long time. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like for when people get the opportunity to go and do things again and stuff. And obviously, there's like some more and more positive news every week with the vaccine as well. So I think there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. I guess like what. I mean, there's lots of like amazing stories in there, right? You guys are basically superheroes. You know, like you really are. I mean, basically superheroes. What have you learned over the last couple of years, and what's the whole pandemic? You kind of alluded to it when you've spoken previously, but I guess what's the pandemic and the experience of COVID brought front of mind? And what's it made really important?
I think mainly is, if you want to go do something and you can do it, go do it, because you don't know when you're going to be in another 4-month lockdown. You don't know whether you're going to be in another year lockdown. I mean, we never thought back in 2020. I mean, we were away in March 2020. And when we went away, we never thought that when we came back the day after, we were going to get put into a nationwide lockdown and we were going to be stuck at home for how long. So I think we've just learned, if you have the opportunity, go do it, because you don't know when you're going to be able to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for what I've gone through, I definitely work on the ethos of if I want to do something, I just do it. And I'm so happy I've especially gone into travel, because it's probably one of the best decisions I've made. It's just so good just to be able to see and just experience different things that I'd never even thought about when I was 14, 15. All I wanted to do was just play sport. Whereas now I definitely feel like it's something I'm so happy I chose to do. And I'm definitely not going to stop. No chance I'm going to stop.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. I think like travel is it's a core part of being human, because I think there's always like the real fundamental need to understand what's like beyond the horizon, and kind of what's over the next hill and stuff like that. And it's also really important, like educational experience as well, if you have the opportunity to do it, which is why I think you guys talking about how you do things on a budget is really important, because it gives people who might think they've not been able to access it previously, it gives them the opportunity to do that. You know, if you think about it, if you guys go to Tanzania and you see the big five in Africa, you meet people obviously from different backgrounds and different cultures, different languages. You empathize with them and understand them more, and it just broadens your horizons.
Yeah, definitely. I think definitely through our last 3-4 years of travel, we've made a lot of friends in different countries, and we speak to them quite regularly as well, and they're like, oh, just come out and stay with us for weeks, and like, oh, I'd love to, but we just can't right now. But and I think learning about other people's cultures as well is really important, especially in like 2021. Just every time we go away, we learn something new. Even I never thought that when we went to the Maldives we would learn anything, but we learned so much about culture there as well, and not just there but everywhere. We've learned new stuff about cultures that I just think you can't learn from sitting at home or on Google or watching a TV. It's completely different to what Instagram may tell you or what the TV may tell you and mainstream media. It is completely different prospect of life as well, which I think is very important and has definitely broadened our minds, I guess. And
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I wanted to ask as the final question was, when people used to ask me when I started the business, when I started Trtl, they said, "Oh, that's a big risk," and my response was, "No, it's not." I just didn't I almost like I viewed risk very differently, because the big for them it was a risk. I guess the business might fail. What do you do if it fails? It might cost you a lot of money. These kind of things. But for me, it was, well, I started the business in my early 20s, and for me, it was like, well, the bigger risk for me is not trying and regretting it.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, when you start a business at a younger age as well, you obviously have more time to bounce back if things don't quite work out. So there's that, and then obviously there's a lot of value in the experiences and learning, and those are things that I can take forward as I go through in life and stuff. So in many ways, like being in a travel business through the pandemic's been like the biggest lesson in resilience and the most incredible experience in some ways that I could ever wish for. And I'd rather have that at like 33 years old versus 73 years old, because I have more time to take those experiences forward and stuff. But you guys have been through a lot. Charlie, 2% chance of survival. It's pretty crazy. And obviously there's risk when you fly, but can you talk a little bit more about how you view that and stuff? I think I'm pretty clear, but I think for the audience it'd be quite interesting just to kind of chat it through.
It's difficult because the first couple of flights, it always lingered in my head. I didn't know what was going to happen, if anything's going to happen, how's I going to cope with it or anything like that. But I feel so comfortable now. I think it's kind of more of a mindset. Yeah. I definitely know on what I think was one of the second flights that we went to together, I did manage to get a little tingling pain in myself. My kind of left side went a little bit tingly. What didn't feel quite normal, but actually it was just sunburn. But I just self-consciously thought, oh no, what's going to happen? Is this going to happen again? What? You always
think of the worst though in situations like that. Like you always think, what if the bad stuff? But you never think, what if the good stuff? Like when I was kind of convinced you, maybe we should start going on a plane. You were like, what if this? What if that? And then I was like, but what if it is completely fine, like it has been, and we get to visit however many places in the world, and you can sit on a plane for 12 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say, what if all the bad stuff for everything in life? What if I go out for a walk and I get hit by a bus? Or what if I go out for a walk and meet my best mate on the road? Like,
yeah, that's definitely my perspective on it now, is that I know I've done this quite a fair amount of times now. I feel really comfortable. So I kind of go into it again, here we go, it's just another flight. And honestly now, I don't feel any little bit of anxiety or anything like that. I don't feel uncomfortable at any situation. I definitely did, but I can't just throw myself out there. And it just kind of feels second nature now. It's like almost like getting into my car and driving.
Yeah. And in many ways you can't control it as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the things I can't control. I mean, I guess this probably isn't the right thing to think, but if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's definitely kind of just maybe accepts in my life that not everything's certified. I mean, and anything can happen. So I'm just going to try and do what I can do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That is a great way to end the podcast. Some inspirational words. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, guys. It's been a pleasure. Really interesting to hear your stories.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you all so much for watching or listening to the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, hit that bell. Links to Hannah and Charlie's social media will be below, and to the website as well. We'll stick that below the video in the description so you can check them out. Thank you all for watching and listening again, and we'll speak to you all soon.